Still a dangerous hurricane. You're taking a look right now at some new video of Hurricane Irma's destruction. AP reports at least 11 are dead, though some international news agencies reports Irma has killed as many as 14. The storm hit Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas overnight. In Barbuda, the prime minister says it was like a bomb going off on the island. He says Irma destroyed 95% of its structures and vehicles.
Well, my main concern right now is how we're going to survive after this. Meaning that every house, every infrastructure, every utility that is there is completely damaged and gone.
In St. Martin, Irma destroyed the airport. This aerial video shows the damage on the U.S. Virgin Islands. All right, so let's get right to Danny and talk about where this thing is headed next. And this update that we got, Danny, any change to the path it's expected to take?
Change from 24 hours ago, but unfortunately no change from last night, which is when we started seeing that westward shift. So it does look like the threat for hurricane impacts in southwest Florida is growing, and in some cases rather severe impacts, as the storm is forecast to be a Category 4 upon landfall in South Florida. As it stands right now, a Category 4, that was also included in the latest update, but 155-mile-per-hour winds. Mind you, Category 5, 157, so it's not weak. Still a very, very strong Category 4 storm as it tracks through the Bahamas just north of Cuba. Here's that official track. I want to mention that it is headed into some of the warmest waters of its lifetime, really. So potential for re-strengthening is not out of the question, although the National Hurricane Center does keep it as a Category 4 as it approaches the Florida Peninsula. You notice this track is not looking great for us. The trend yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, and again this morning is right up the center of the state, and that would put southwest Florida, a lot of it at least, in that hurricane wind field, especially for our inland counties. As you see, the eye could potentially track right over as we head into Sunday and then again Monday. By Monday afternoon, Monday night, it'll be pulling north of us, and we could even see it stay Category 2 in North Florida and a tropical storm up through Atlanta. This is a strong, strong storm. It all depends on that shift north, which we still expect to happen on Saturday, and that'll give us a better idea of just how far east and just how far west. At this point, confidence is fairly high right up the center, but you can see that range here, that cone of uncertainty, if you will, still could push it further west or further east, although the track right up the center. And if it moves any further west, our impacts grow. If it moves further east, that would be better for us, although it does still look like impacts could potentially be severe through South Florida as we head into this weekend. Spaghetti plots are coming to a better agreement in terms of this right up the middle path. Remember, yesterday it was focused on the east side, today focused right up the middle. Some models have it all the way over on the west side, which would, of course, be worse for us. The further west, the worse off that we're going to be. Right now, the track up the middle still puts the hurricane force wind field, which is 70 miles outside of the center, well into our, of course, right over our inland counties. So a hurricane warning has been issued for Collier, Glaze, and Hendry. That means hurricane conditions are expected. They are in the forecast, and you need to be prepared for them heading into the weekend. Hurricane watch in place for Charlotte and Lee, which means hurricane conditions are possible, and any shift further west would put that hurricane force wind field all over Lee and Charlotte counties. Surge watch also for those counties. Surge warning in Collier County with potentially 5 to 10 feet. So flooding also going to be an issue, as well as the wind impacts for Collier County. And really, we're looking at wind impacts all across southwest Florida. 40 to 70 miles per hour. The tropical storm force, a sure bet, potentially greater than 80 with the hurricane force wind field 70 miles outside of the center. Again, it's all about that little shift. Even 20 miles east or west is going to make a big difference. So we just got to prepare, and that's the main message. Finalize those preparations today. Forecasts will cooperate. Scattered storms possible even by this afternoon with chances near 50%. But it's time to finalize those preparations. And I would encourage you to prepare for hurricane-like conditions so that you are covered no matter what happens with a shift in the track that could still come over the next day or so. I'll send it to traffic.
All right, Danny, thank you. And this is what's going on as people get prepared to leave Florida. If you're getting ready to head out the door and you're going up I-75, this is what you have ahead of you. This is I-75 northbound near Ponce de Leon, and you can see it is quite a bit of volume. In fact, we're seeing backups pretty much between here, southwest Florida, and the state line. In some areas, it gets really bad. If you're staying in southwest Florida, though, Fort Myers looking good right now. Not seeing much traffic out there at all, and no accidents to report. All right, in Lee County, mandatory evacuation orders are about to go into effect. The orders are if you live on Bonita Beach, Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, Captiva, or Pine Island. This mandatory evacuation order will also be in effect for all mobile homes all over Lee County, regardless where they're located.
So you might be wondering where to go. This morning, for In Your Corners, Malcolm Johnson's in South Fort Myers High School there.
Yeah, that's where some people are going to shelters. Malcolm, you've been seeing people line up
Chris,
there.
We know that the doors don't open up here until 9 a.m. for these evacuees to make their way inside of South Fort Myers High School, again on Plantation Road, just off of Daniels Parkway. But that has not stopped the evacuees from making their way here. You see all these people behind me? Well, we're going to show you even more as we slowly just pan off and let you all see how many people are starting to fill up here. This isn't people dropping their kids off to school. I know that's what it looks like. Maybe an after school or before school pickup line with parents lined up. No, these are parents. These are families. These are children. These are babies. These are pets. These are members of this community that live near Daniels, that live near Metro, that live near Plantation, who have made their way here early this morning to make sure that they can ensure themselves a spot inside of this shelter. Now, not everyone is as fortunate as the folks that you're looking at who are able to drive here this morning. We spoke with one woman who dropped some of her neighbors off.
Be up early enough to catch a bus, then to get off at Daniels, get on a second bus. They had to push the strollers because there's two of my neighbors have small kids, babies in their arms. So one's going to have a double stroller. So then they would have to have caught the bus to Daniels. Then they would have to walk from Daniels all the way down here to the school.
So let's bring it back now live here to South Fort Myers High School. What you're looking at is some of the administrators here at the school. They're not going to be responsible for taking care of this operation. It's the Red Cross that will be. Not until the Red Cross arrives will they open up these gates and these sea of cars will be able to park inside. The doors, again, don't open until 9 a.m. We're live this morning. Reporting in Fort Myers, I'm Malcolm Johnson, Fox 4 in your corner.
That is quite the picture there, Malcolm. Thank you. Okay, starting at 9 o'clock, the Lee County shelters were open. That's what Malcolm just said. And Lehigh Acres, here's where you can go. East Lee County High School, which is accepting pets, Varsity Lakes Middle, and Harns Marsh Middle. If you're in Fort Myers, you can get shelter at Oak Hammock Middle and South Fort Myers, which is accepting pets. That's where Malcolm just was. Shelters will also be open at Island Coast High in Cape Coral and the Estero Rec Center. Now, some of you may not know where these places are, or you may not know which one is closest to where you live. That's why this map is so helpful. This is a map of the shelters throughout Lee County, where they are. That red line you see down the middle of your screen, that's 75. You can see there are 3 shelters in Lehigh Acres, 1 in the Cape, 2 in Fort Myers, and 1 in Estero. In preparation for Hurricane Irma, Governor Rick Scott announced that all public schools, K through 12, state colleges, state universities, and state offices will close through Monday. Yesterday, Governor Scott urged everyone in the state to be prepared to evacuate.
And mandatory evacuations are in order for some communities in Collier County starting at 1 this afternoon. They're in effect for Goodland, Everglades City, and Chokoloskee. There's a voluntary evacuation advisory for Marco Island until further notice. But people living in mobile homes across the county, especially those east of Collier Boulevard, are strongly advised to leave the area.
Some of those folks will no doubt be going to a shelter. So let's go to Four in Your Corners' Jillian Idle, who is live at one of those shelters at Palmetto Ridge High School. Jillian.
Well, Chris, Jane, this location, this Palmetto Ridge High School shelter is a special needs shelter. It's going to be the only one in Collier County that is for those with special needs. There are, though, some requirements if you plan on heading out to this one, and you'll see those here on your screen in just a little bit, and also you can get it on our mobile app and website, fox4now.com. There's a few things, though, if you are going to be evacuating and heading to a shelter sometime today. This one opens at 8 a.m., but the rest of them are going to open at 1 p.m. today in Collier County. Also, the county is waiving bus fees, so if you need transportation, you can use the county buses to get to one of these locations. We're going to have all the locations for you listed out on our website, fox4now.com, and we'll have more information for you coming up in a little bit. But for now, reporting live in Collier County, Jillian Idle, Fox 4 in your corner.
Jillian, thank you. Collier County shelters will open today. If you have pets, you can head to Immokalee Middle School and Cypress Palm Middle. The other shelters on this list do not allow for pets. They're on your screen. Immokalee High, Gulf Coast High, Oak Ridge High, make that Oak Ridge Middle, and Lely High. And voluntary evacuations are being recommended for people on the barrier islands in Charlotte County. This is not a mandatory evacuation. This includes Don Pedro Island, Knight Island, Little Gasparilla Island, and Minnesota Key. This recommendation also includes people living in mobile homes across the county.
Okay, let's take you to Hendry County. There is a shelter if you live there. It's at LaBelle Middle School. In Glades County, Maples Grove Baptist Church, West Glades Elementary, and Moorhaven High School will all act as shelters. And in DeSoto County, the shelter will be at DeSoto Middle School. We also want to tell you there is a special needs shelter opening at South Florida State College in Arcadia. Well, Governor Rick Scott announced mandatory evacuations for areas south of Lake Okeechobee from Lakeport to Canal Point. The order will be in effect today for South Bay, Lake Harbor, Pahokee, Moorhaven, Clewiston, Belle Glade, and Canal Point.
As we head into the weekend, we are looking at potential impacts from Hurricane Irma. I'll have the latest on Irma and what we should expect here in Southwest Florida coming up after the break.
Time right now is 7:14. We're tracking Irma, which is making its way through the Bahamas right now. And on that live cam there, you could see the trees blowing and the water in the distance and in the pool. It doesn't look too bad, but it's definitely picking up with Irma just over the islands. A heads up for people in Southwest Florida planning to evacuate. Tolls at Lee County's 3 bridges, the Midpoint, the Cape Coral, and Sanibel Causeway, are suspended until further notice. This comes days after Governor Scott suspended all tolls on Florida highways.
All right, we've talked a lot lately about airlines overbooking, right? Well, at least one man who was trying to evacuate Irma's path says he can't get out of Fort Myers right now because of a rental car company.
Yeah, 4 in Your Corner spoke to a man who says he made a car reservation through Enterprise to get his elderly mother out of town. But when he went to pick it up, he was told there wasn't a car available for him. He says an employee told him they accidentally overbooked more than 70 cars for people in Fort Myers. 4 in Your Corner tried reaching out to Enterprise to find out what happened, but we've yet to hear back.
7:15 your time now. Let's get right back to Danny. I know you're getting updates all the time on Hurricane Irma. Where do we stand right now?
Right now, Irma moving through the southeast Bahamas with wind speeds of 155 miles per hour. That does make it a Category 4. That was released at the 5 a.m. update. But I do want to caution you, don't let that give you false hope. This is weakening rapidly. Category 5 is 157. Again, this is 155, so we just dropped out of that classification. And it's headed through extremely warm waters in the Caribbean. So the chance and the threat of re-strengthening not completely out of the question, although the National Hurricane Center does have it as a Category 4 as it approaches the Florida Peninsula. As it stands right now, just under 400 miles away from Miami this morning. You can see the eye just north of Cuba. It is expected to take that track continuing just north of Cuba before making that all too important northerly turn, which really is the key to the forecast in terms of potential impacts. But the latest trends that we've been seeing since about yesterday afternoon are not moving in southwest Florida's favor, and that is because the track has continued to shift west. You know, see right up the center of the peninsula, which puts the hurricane force wind field, which is extending 70 miles per hour outside of the center of Irma through most of southwest Florida. So that's what my main message is today. This is the final day to prepare, and at this point I think it's smart that everyone in southwest Florida prepares for hurricane conditions, because you also see the cone of uncertainty here, which means any jog this way possible. We could see this center of the storm this far this way, this far to the east as well. And again, any 25, 30, 40 mile per hour move either direction could have a big change in our potential impact. But as it stands right now, if we're going with the current track, if this verifies, we're looking at a Category 4 storm making landfall in South Florida, moving right up the center, putting our inland counties right in the center of Irma and putting that hurricane force wind field through much of southwest Florida. Spaghetti plots here are all your different forecast models. If you remember yesterday, tightly clustered up the east coast. Today, tightly clustered right up the center. A few models still have it going up through southwest Florida. Again, we're not in the clear in terms of that path, but most of these right up the center, and that's what I want you to prepare for. The European model yesterday afternoon and again this morning with that path that would put hurricane force winds all across southwest Florida, extending right up the center of the peninsula. And the GFS model, the 6D run, just came out, and it's looking about the exact same. So it looks like models starting to come to consensus in terms of the center of the state track. A hurricane warning has been issued for Collier, Glaze, and Hendry. So our 3 inland counties. A hurricane warning means hurricane conditions are expected. They are in the forecast. Prepare for them. A hurricane watch is what is in place right now for Lee and Charlotte, but I want to caution you, any jog further west, I'm talking 20 miles, and it's a sure thing that we'd see hurricane impacts. So I would still recommend preparing for hurricane impacts through Lee and Charlotte. Even if it stands right now, it's just a watch, there's a good chance that will be upgraded, and it still can be. Storm surge watch for Charlotte and Lee, also a storm surge warning, which means storm surge is expected in Collier. Flooding a big risk here. We could see the storm surge 5 to 10 miles. Your chance for tropical storm force winds, it is a sure bet, 100% chance really for southwest Florida, and the chance for hurricane force winds that increases with every jog to the west that this official track takes. With the 70-mile wind field outside of the center, that does put a lot of southwest Florida at risk for hurricane force winds with this new track right up the center of the state. So here is the wind field. We'll start seeing the tropical storm force wind Saturday night all across the area. Tropical storm force wind overnight into Sunday, but the hurricane force winds arrive Sunday morning. And as it stands right now, this track that is right now verifies we're looking at the risk for hurricane impacts all across southwest Florida. That is what I want you to prepare for, so that you are prepared no matter what. It's better to be over prepared and completely okay than underprepared. So I'm not trying to give anyone extra work today or unnecessarily stress anyone out, but I'm saying that the way things are trending, the likelihood of hurricane impacts to all of Southwest Florida is increasing, and I want you to be prepared for that. Here are your threats. Tornado threat is primarily in the north and east quadrant of any hurricane. Right now, as the current track stands, we're on the west side, so that's not as much of a threat. Wind is, very best case scenario,